Welcome to This Is Living with Josh and Aaron Hawley.
We all the time, day to day, we face those choices. Okay, today, what's going to be my priority? Today, what am I going to go after? Today, how am I going to handle the busyness and the competing demands?
Jesus tells his followers that those who come to him will have life and life abundantly, or life to the full. So that's sort of the idea that we're after.
There's a good life out there. Let's go and find it.
Hi, I'm Josh Hawley.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back to our home.
We're so glad that you would be with us today. We just want to say thank you for taking the time. I mean, we know that there are so many things that you have to do, so many things that you could be doing, and we're just honored that you would spend this time with us. And, you know, Aaron, we want to talk with folks and to share our journey about what does it mean to really live. I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about. This is why we wanted to do this podcast, is to talk about what is real life that really matters.
Yeah, what does that abundant, full life look like? And, you know, we have these questions as well as we work through our own jobs. Lawyering can be quite busy. And, you know, what is it that we're doing this for?
I think so many people feel that, you know, I've got to go out there and I've got to get that next promotion. I've got to go out there and I've got to get that pay raise. You know, if you're a man, you hear that, boy, if you want to matter, you know, then you've got to earn this salary. You've got to achieve this level of prestige. And, you know, listen, I mean, we are out in the marketplace. I mean, Aaron just said she's a lawyer. I represent Missouri in the United States Senate. And I think a lot of times popular culture would look and say, okay, yeah, I mean, that's success. You know, congratulations, that's success. You need to do more of that. And nothing against working, nothing against trying to achieve. Those are great things. But I think all of us at the end of the day, we have these questions. Is this what I really am living for? I mean, is this really what matters the most? You know, you get into bed at night exhausted. You've got the kids to bed. You've gotten through a day of work. And you're thinking, why am I doing this again? And that's what we want to talk with you about, because we have those questions. We ask ourselves that just about every night, you know, like, why are we doing what we are doing? And we don't have a textbook answer, but what we've come to is, why do we do what we do? We're trying to live for what matters. We're trying to discover the culture of heaven right now and live that. We're trying to leave a legacy.
Absolutely. And as we think about that, if we think about, you know, bringing heaven down, one of the most exciting things for us is our marriage.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to be able to live life together, to pursue that full life together, and to raise a family together.
You know, marriage is one of those things that it's right at the heart of our lives, of the lives of so many people. And when you think about what really matters, you think about living for the permanent things. Boy, marriage has got to be right at the center of that list. But, you know, it's at the top of the list. But, you know, Aaron, I mean, let's be truthful. Marriage is also a lot of work.
It's hard.
It's hard. You know, it's hard work. If you're married, you know that. Yes. If you are in a long-term relationship, or for that matter, if you've dated anybody for more than 10 minutes, you know that it's hard. It's really hard work. It's really hard work.
Absolutely. You've got two sinful people who are now joined as one, trying to live in unity when you have such different personalities and different backgrounds, all of those sorts of things.
But it's really worth it. I mean,
Absolutely.
Our experience has been, it's really worth it. And this is a topic we're so excited about, because we're excited about marriage. We're excited about our marriage. We're excited about what marriage can mean. We're excited about the power of it. You know, I remember a sermon, I think from Tim Keller, Aaron. It's been several years ago now. In fact, I think I was listening to it before you and I got married and thinking about, you know, oh my gosh, you know, am I ready for this? Like, am I able to do this? And I remember something that I believe it was Tim Keller said, that marriage is ministry power. And I don't know 100% what he meant by that, but what has been true in my life and our lives is that marriage it really makes you strong. I mean, marriage it's such an empowering thing, and it can be it's so transformative in such an awesome way. And you want to talk about multiplying your effectiveness. You want to talk about living in a deeper, more powerful way, more meaningful way. Marriage is really, it's all about that. And it's so exciting for those reasons. But I think people need encouragement right now, because what we're seeing in this country, marriage is tough, and fewer people are getting married. You know, I mean, more marriages are ending. I mean, it's tough.
It is, and the day-to-day struggle is real. Like Josh and I continually work on our marriage, and it's worth it. As Josh said, I love that description of marriage as being for one another, and being that support, that rock, that sort of En-Gedi. If you're thinking about David, that place that he went to, the stronghold and fortress, and then as men and women, we can go out and raise children. We can go out and work in the marketplace, but we can come home to a solid foundation. And I remember hearing one story from a pastor about a young girl, we'll call her Stephanie, but she was just the delight of her parents. Her parents had had a really hard time getting pregnant. They had had several miscarriages, and now they had their only child, Stephanie. And she was in college, and a professor was asking them a question about whether their parents, if the students thought their parents loved them more, the students, or if the student thought their parents loved each other more. And Stephanie was the only person who raised her hands thinking that her parents loved each other more.
Then they loved her.
Yes,
yeah,
they loved
right.
her. And she was, it was so interesting because she found this so reassuring. She said it didn't make her feel badly at all. Instead, she knew that her parents' foundation was solid, that her home was solid, that she didn't have to try to fix them or to fix herself to fit in, that she knew that parental love, that marriage was the foundation out of which she could grow and flourish.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I think one thing that we want to talk with you about today is what does success in marriage really look like? I mean, what's it look like what is a great marriage? And we always say we're not experts. You know,
No.
we're just people. I mean, we're just people. We're just on the journey trying to figure it out. You know, but I hope that maybe today we'll maybe change your mind a little bit about what success in marriage looks like, what a great marriage looks like, maybe challenge some preconceptions. I know that we as a married people, we get pushed at us all the time. Well, you know, your marriage needs to look like this. If to be successful, it needs to look like that. I don't know. We found that a lot of times those messages really miss what real success in marriage is, what a great marriage really looks like. So we just want to share some of our journey in that with you today. And the Bible it has a lot to say about marriage, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the verses that we've all heard are, you know, that a cord of three strands is not easily broken. So when you enter into marriage, there's this wonderful gift where the Holy Spirit is also part of that marriage. So the two of us are joined together, but alongside that marriage of two human beings, we have God actually participating in that and helping us through that. And then I also love the verse that says, you know, two are better than one, because when one stumbles, if he or she is alone, there's no one to pick them up. But if two are together, that the second person can come along and support and undergird and help that person. And to me, that's a picture of marriage, that you are helping one another, that when one person is weak or having a hard time, the other person can be strong, and vice versa.
You know, I also think of way back in Genesis, you know, all the way back, you see in the scripture where God creates male and female, and then he gives them to each other to be the first married couple. And then the Lord's commission to them, you know, what is it they're supposed to do with their lives? You know, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to go out and they're supposed to tend the garden, make it beautiful, and then extend that throughout the whole earth. You know, they're supposed to go make the earth beautiful. And that commission comes to them together. It comes to them as a married couple, you know, which is really kind of awesome when you think about it. I mean, and this is directly from the Lord himself. He says, hey, go out there and make the world beautiful. Go out there and use your talents. Go out there and use your skills. Go out there and represent me in the earth. And you do that as husband and wife. You do it as a married couple. That's pretty inspiring, I think, and can help give us some direction for marriage. Maybe we should tell people about how we ended up married. It's a question Aaron's family would still like to know the answer to. How did this happen? We had such high hopes, and she's married to him.
Hardly. Let's see. So we sort of met in law school, did not know another very well at all, and then it ended up clerking for the same judge. We shared an office. The job was so busy. We
should tell people what clerking is.
Oh, sure. Yes. So, yes.
Well, it's just working. It just means you work for a judge. So we worked at the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court together. This is when you're done with law school, and sometimes before you go out and you start practicing law, you have the opportunity to work for a judge, usually for a year at a time. And the judge selects, typically it's 4 clerks, and there's lots of different judges all across the country. And then the Supreme Court, of course, there's 9 of them, and they take a set of clerks every year. So Aaron and I ended up working at the Supreme Court at the same time. And like I said, we really didn't know one another. I mean, we knew of one another, but didn't really know one another. And we started in July. I don't know. Should we give the year?
A long time ago.
Yeah, July of 2007. And we literally shared an office, which meant Erin was couldn't escape. I got to talk to her the entire day. And we started dating pretty shortly thereafter.
We did, and we had 4 co-clerks, or 2. We had four clerks. I had 2 co-clerks.
Yeah.
And so we kind of kept it under wraps. Just didn't want it to.
Oh, by kind of we mean completely. So we didn't tell anybody, because dating a coworker can, it can be. Some of you've done that. Like it can be strange. And we didn't want it to be awkward for our fellow clerks. I mean, that was the main thing. Our colleagues, like we didn't, because keep in mind, everybody's young. I mean, now both of our co-clerks, so it was 3 men and 1 woman. Erin was the woman, and then 3 guys, and the other guys were both married. So, I mean, none of that would have been weird, but it was just that, you think, well, if those 2 are dating, is that kind of strange? So we started dating in the fall, and we kept it a secret for 9 solid months, which, I was pretty proud of, actually.
Began dating with the Supreme Court, dated for several years. And then Josh completely surprised me by asking me to marry him. It was really beautiful, actually. It was my birthday, or we were celebrating my birthday.
Yeah.
And I helped to throw a surprise party for him. So he had sort of, I could tell something was going on, but I thought it was probably a surprise party for my birthday. And so we go up to his apartment, and there's nobody there. So I was like, this is kind of strange. And then it was this really lovely woman. So there was rose petals all over the floor. I went out to the balcony. Beautiful picture of the DC skyline, and Josh ends up proposing, and I am floored, totally surprised. He tells me now that he had carried around the ring for several months, but I had no idea. So I was very surprised and elated. But yes.
And she didn't let me get through my speech. I had this, guys will be able to relate to this. I had this little speech rehearsed. I thought, I want to get this right. It's a high pressure moment. I want to get this right. So I had the whole thing down, like go down on one knee. By the way, it was freezing cold. Erin was born in January, so it was freezing cold. And I actually wanted to propose to her outside, but it was like 7 degrees. So then I had to do a last minute, like, that's not gonna work. We can't be outside this whole time. So then I thought, well, we'll do it at my apartment. It's got this little, this is when we were had just finished clerking at the court. We were both then had started practicing law and in DC. And so it was kind of tight quarters, but the little balcony, you could see like the Capitol building across the river. So anyway, we're out there. I go down on one knee, and Erin didn't let me get through my talk, which I guess was good. But I think I might have said, wait a minute, I'm not finished yet. She still married me. No, I don't necessarily recommend that. You guys out there, if you're thinking of getting married, like maybe if your wife says yes, your wife to be, just take that. There you go. Exactly. I think my sister's kind of a younger sister. I think my sister's comment when I told her, she's like, "Did you get it in writing?" Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's gonna last. Anyway. So that was the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then pretty shortly thereafter, I'm from Missouri. Obviously, that's why we represent Missouri in the Senate, and we moved home to Missouri, and then we had a year or 2 after that we had kids, and then life got really crazy.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and then Erin, then began the challenge and the great joy and also adventure of taking two people who are both, by the way, very independent,
yes,
very strong personalities. People often don't think that they underestimate how strong of a personality. Erin's a very strong personality, I tell you, just because she's quiet. Anyway, but very strong personalities, and bringing them together to form a partnership and to become one. The 2 become one, and that's a great undertaking, which we're still on. Absolutely. But then we had to start that then. Yeah,
and I think it's an ongoing process. And as you said, we were both fairly young and independent people who had sort of been on our own, living professional lives for quite a while independently. And so that sort of knitting together of one, I think the most important thing for me to understand has just been that partnership aspect. And I loved how you described in Genesis about how God gave Adam and Eve a commission together. So they are to go forth together, to raise a family together, but also to the workplace, that they're to do God's call in their life together. And that isn't always easy. Sometimes it can look messy, like when do you move or whose job, how does that all work out? But I think the ultimate thing is, what is it that God has called us to as a family?
Yeah. And we are very different people.
Yes.
We've got different personality types. We have different approaches to different situations. We express ourselves differently. We have a lot of similar interests, but we also have different interests. I mean, so I think as we think about every marriage is a balance, and you find out that, oh wow, you can there's this great opportunity to complement one another. It's she's really strong in this area. That's not really my area of strength, and hopefully vice versa. And we've certainly, again, that we're discovering that, and we've been married 11 years now, so we're discovering more of that all the time and continuing to work on achieving both the balance and then working on achieving harmony. But I would say something in our marriage that we found is that I love structure.
Yes.
I love structure. I love systems. I love order. If I would do almost the same thing every single day in terms of, it's like I wake up at this time and I have this to eat for breakfast, and I have,
same thing for breakfast.
Hey, structure. I don't think about it, right? Aaron, though, is really strong. You love spontaneity, and you're great at that. You're hugely adaptable, and you love that.
And it's a really nice combination, actually, especially as raising children, because as all the moms know, all the dads know, like structure is really good for children. So it's helpful for me to have that sort of undergirding of structure. And, how can we think about organizing this, and so the kids know what to expect. And then I also think the spontaneity is good because life happens and kids are chaotic. And so being able to just address them where they're at and move on. So that, I think it's been a real a source of difference, but also complementarity.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the things that you have really helped me see is that you don't, just because you love structure, and I think I'm good at setting it up, but then the real challenge for people who are highly structured is what happens when your structure gets disrupted? What happens when your schedule gets disrupted? One of the things I've learned from Aaron is that you can thrive. You can still thrive, you can thrive no matter what. Sure. It's different. Okay, that's fine. Hey, we can still thrive. And Aaron is great at that. So that's a little example, I think, of how you have two different people. And I know that if you're married, you've experienced this. Your spouse is different than you, and that can be a source of friction, but it can also be a source of enormous strength. Which I guess brings us to, we talked about success in marriage. And I think that's what a lot of people say, like, okay, what does success in marriage look like? Our popular culture a lot of times says that success in marriage is being picture perfect. It's having, you just love each other. There's never any conflict at all. It's absolutely perfect. If you think about popular culture, it seems like marriage is portrayed in one of two extremes. Either it is this picture perfect, never a hair out of place.
Instagram.
Exactly. Instagram, it's fake. And it's either that, or it's that it's awful, and the couple can hardly stand to be in the same room, and it's in a state of disintegration. So it's one of those two extremes. But those haven't been our experience. Certainly, we don't live the picture perfect experience. But we found that success in marriage looks a little different.
Yeah, and I love that idea of sort of thinking through what does success in marriage look like. And I think that might look a little different for every different couple. I think that for me, defining success in marriage is a little tough. As I was talking to Josh earlier, I think to begin with, I sort of define success in marriage as the absence of bad things. So marriage is good if there's, not yelling and screaming, if it's not chaotic, if it's not unpredictable. And like many of you, I grew up in a home with a marriage that wasn't ideal. And so I had that sort of picture of, this is what I want to avoid. And through being married to Josh, he convinced me to marry him. I didn't even really want to be married. Why would you want to be married? It's just all this chaos. But Josh convinced me to marry him. And through this sort of journey and adventure together, I'm learning more of what marriage can be. And this idea of you have someone that is for you. who thinks the best of you, who calls you. I think it was maybe in the same Tim Keller sermon, but I believe it was his wife mentioning that one of the beautiful things about marriage is that you see your partner, your spouse, as sort of this, while everyone else might see them as this sort of block of marble, you see the statue and you see the person
Good.
they can be, the person that God has called them to be, and you help that person become that.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. That's awesome. Well, keep chipping away at me, babe. Someday we'll get there. Sorry, just set that right up. I think as I think about success in marriage, what's a successful marriage look like? What's that mean? For me, I think it means loving joyfully, choosing to love joyfully. And I would just say, to men out there, but this is a choice that you can make. And I find I've got to make the choice every single day, to love joyfully. Sometimes we talk about loving sacrificially, and that's important too. I mean, that is, love is a sacrifice. But for myself, what I try to motivate myself towards is that I want to love Erin joyfully, because it's an incredible privilege to be married to her. It's an incredible privilege to have the family that we do. It's an incredible privilege to have the challenges that we have. So I want to be joyful about that. And, I heard somebody say recently that one of the most important things that we can do in life in general is to maintain excitement about the people who we're closest to in life. And you have to work at that. You've got to work to maintain excitement, because, everybody knows, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your coworkers, whether it's other family members, the more you're around them, you build up a level of familiarity, and the more familiar you tend to get with somebody, oftentimes the sort of less forgiving that you are. And the old familiarity breeds contempt, the old saying. So I think success, it doesn't look like perfection. Success looks like progress. It looks like every day, it's like, okay, I made up today, and I'm going to try to love joyfully today. Today, I'm going to try to maintain my excitement for Erin. I'm going to try to maintain my excitement for the kids. And when I say maintain, it's like, that's on me, right? I got to stir it up. And it's like, boy, I'm excited to be married to Erin today. And I just think, getting in there and putting my shoulder to it every day, I think that's success. You go to the next day and you do it again. We were just spending some time with my grandmother, who's 90. And she was married. My grandpa's now gone, but they were married for, 60 some years. And, there's just a sense in which, boy, the longevity itself is the success. I mean, being able to say we kept after it, we worked at it every single day. Progress is the success, I think. And I just think that that's so hopeful. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes I say to myself, I find myself saying like, well, at least I didn't get mad as quick as I did the last time. It's like, I did better this time. Like it took me 5 minutes rather than 3, I mean, so celebrating that progress, I think, is huge, and maintaining thankfulness throughout. So what would you add to that, Erin? I mean, that's how I think about it.
I really love that. And as a woman, we love to be treasured. And so the idea of being sort of joyfully loved, I think is really, really huge to all of us. And also, I think just this idea of thinking the best of one another.
Yeah.
As of our kids and our coworkers, but especially our spouse. As you said, we can, be around one another. We know, the things that annoy us, the things that we really love. And it's easy when we're familiar with people just to think, oh, why did they do that again? But really to be thinking, I bet the intention behind that was to be helpful or to love me, and just thinking the best of that person. I think it's really, really huge.
I think that is really good. And, I think that a great marriage is grounded on great beliefs about the other person.
Love that.
I mean, that's something in my own life and in our marriage I found is that, I've got to be clear on what I'm thinking about Erin, what I'm believing about Erin, and I've got to choose to believe what's true, which is the great things about her. To remember, like, wait a minute, why did I want this woman to marry me? Why? It's because she's incredible. I mean, she's an amazing person. She loves the Lord. She's incredibly talented. She's got an amazing heart. She's incredibly gifted. I want to spend every day with her. And so I think when you have the foundation of great beliefs and you work on those, that leads to great feelings, and that leads to great experiences. But you got to maintain the beliefs every day, or at least I do. You can't take a day off from that. You got to get up and you got to remind yourself, like, okay, what am I believing today? What am I going to believe about my wife today? Boy, I'm going to believe what's true about her, which is that she's amazing, she's awesome, and then that helps with that excitement.
And then Josh is great to give me grace to when I'm not awesome.
Well,
So,
yeah,
so
and vice versa. Yeah. But you don't have to be perfect. I mean, this comes back to success isn't perfection. I don't even know what that means. Success isn't perfection. Success is staying after it. Success is pursuing it. Success is making progress, and it's doing it joyfully. Hey, let's talk about some of the challenges though in marriage and just in our own life. I mean, the things that we do can be challenges.
Absolutely.
My job has presented unique challenges. I mean, I represent Missouri in the Senate. That's something that is a job that doesn't just claim my time and attention. It claims Aaron's time and attention, our boys and our baby daughter. So, what do you think, Aaron? I mean, that's something we've had to work through as a family and still do all the time.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I've come to realize, and it doesn't always happen, but in marriage, it's great if only one person can be stressed at the same time. So
only one person crazy at any one time.
And so being able to sort of, to the extent I can, to order my life to where it's not super stressful, I think is helpful. And just to be able to be flexible in sort of what I'm thinking and doing. And so I can be able to help Josh if he needs it. And one thing this sort of public life, I think, has led to is this idea that our family is, well, out in public. And sometimes, if we're at a restaurant or if we're having dinner or if we're at a park with the kids, people will come up and say hello. And on the one hand, that's so nice because you are getting to meet people who are invested in you, people who are often praying for our family, which is such a gift. But on the other hand, the kids might be screaming and throwing a fit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right in front of the
Frequently,
entire world.
this happens.
Yes. So it's this idea of sort of, this is what God has called us to. And so how do we live publicly? How do we have the kids just be normal kids and be okay with them throwing a fit and sort of working through all of that?
And this is something that changes over time, right? Because our kids get older and change. But just thinking about the stresses on you. I mean, you're a working mom. I mean, you're a practicing lawyer right now. We've got the 3 kids. You're an author. You're a writer. So in terms of just how have you processed, okay, this is a stress, this is a challenge on our marriage. What's that look like for you?
So that's a really, really good thought. And just how do you manage the craziness of life? And I know like many of you out there, you're also juggling jobs, multiple jobs, juggling multiple children. You're feeling, the stress of financial difficulties or all of these things that can be real stresses on marriage. And I think that's one of the reasons we see few people getting married. We see marriages in difficulty. And it is all of these stresses that come both externally and internally. And for us, I think as we navigate the stress that political life can bring, it's really a focus on, what has God called us to as a family. How can we get through this together? And for me personally, I just love the idea of Jesus with the fishes and this idea that this small boy, he didn't have much to give, but he had his lunch. And as a mom and as a wife, sometimes you feel like I just don't have much to give. I don't have much to offer today. I'm stressed out. The baby's crying. I didn't sleep. But this boy offered his lunch and it fed thousands of people. And so God can take our meager offerings, especially when we offer them with a heart toward him, willing to serve. And he can take my meager offering of help to Josh or support for the kids, and he can turn it into something wonderful.
Yeah, something amazing. That's awesome. I find that just thinking through practically the stresses and challenges that come to marriage, and I bet that a lot of people can relate to this, men, women. That you have there's a tendency to bring your stress home, and so I've definitely found myself. I'll come home and maybe it's been a long week. Maybe I've had to travel a bunch. Maybe I've had to deal with criticism, with whatever the case may be, and I'll find myself being critical of Aaron, thinking it starts again back to the thoughts like, well, now I can't, why did she say that to me? Or she was kind of short to me about that. Can't believe she said that. And what I realize over time, or have come to realize over time, is that many times it actually has anything to do with her. It's that I've brought it. It's about work actually, and I've had that. I've had the stress. I've had the attitude, and I brought it back to the house. And then because she's the person literally closest to me in my life, then the natural tendency is well, I vent that onto her. And I just think that I was talking about this recently with a good friend of mine, an older friend, mentors giving me advice, and And I said that, Josh, you can't give the things that you feel offended by, you can't put those on your wife. You can't either hold her accountable for it because she didn't do anything, nor can you unload all of the offenses that you feel of the day. Like, let me tell you what so-and-so did to me today. You can't just unload those on her. But you've got to find a place where you can go and give that to another person, with a peer, another guy who you can talk to, a good friend, or most importantly, you got to learn how to give it to the Lord and say, boy, here's what I've gone through today. Here's what I've done, vent that out, and then be able to come home and to maintain that level of enthusiasm and be like, okay, well, no matter what happened today at work, I'm glad to be home. I'm thankful to be married. I'm thankful for our family. And I'll just say that's a journey that I'm on. And I've got to work through that, every time and get myself motivated in that way because, that's just part of the life that we lead.
I really love that. And I think as a wife who has a husband with a stressful job, one of the things we can do as women is not to take things personally. I want everyone around me to be happy. I want everyone, to be on the same page. And when someone is stressed, that I want to fix it. I want it to be okay. And yet what is more helpful, I think, is just to give Josh space. If he wants to talk about it, great. If not, he needs the space to be able to process through what's often a really tough day. Criticism is not fun. I don't like to be criticized. And that's often part and parcel of serving in politics. And so just being able to give him space, not take it personal, not be offended when, he's maybe a little short or a little on edge. And of course I think, he's mad at me. But he's really not. Sometimes he is, but usually he's not.
Usually not. If I am, not for good reason.
And so just being able to give him the space to process and not myself be offended if he's had a tough day.
It's good. Well, I think, Aaron, the thing that we most want to leave you with is what we try to take from every single day, which is that, listen, marriage is, it can be tough. It can be a challenge, but it's worth it. And you can do it. Yeah. You can do this. Mm-hmm. Today you can get up and you can choose to have great beliefs about your spouse. Mm-hmm. And, something I think that could be interesting to do is maybe it's time to make a list of like, what am I believing about my spouse? That's something that I do. What am I believing? Make that list. And then in the morning, get up and say that. Say, you know what? My wife is beautiful. My wife is talented. My wife is supportive. Those are things that you can control. You can have those great beliefs and you can maintain excitement about your spouse. You can stir it up. And, the other thing I will say is for all the guys out there who feel like they periodically screw up, man, I'm with you on that. And something that, again, I heard somebody say recently, which I love, is that I never stop starting. I never stop starting. Well, I think that's good in marriage. We never stop starting. If you screwed it up, we start again. If you said something you shouldn't, you apologize, you start again. And well, you can do that today. Every day you can say, I'm gonna start today. I'm gonna keep after it.
I love all of that. And I would just say as well to the women and moms is to make sure to focus on your husband. It's easy. The kids are crying and screaming, but focus on your husband today. Tell him how proud you are of him. Tell him that he's doing a good job. One thing I heard too is that sometimes in marriages, there's these like turning to moments, and maybe your husband texts you and maybe the baby's screaming. We'll try to text him back, in relatively good time. And so just when your husband makes an effort to reach out, make sure you're there and reaching back out, because it's just that acknowledgement of his investment in you, and you've got this. So.
It's been so good to see you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us for This is Living with Josh and Aaron Hawley. Life can be more. Don't settle for less. Join us next time for a fresh episode, and until then, we would love to hear from you. You can connect with us by visiting joshhawley.com and sign up for our email list. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. But most importantly, share our podcast with a friend and leave us a review on Google Play or Apple Podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening to This is Living.
There's a good life out there. Let's go and find it. Paid for by Josh Hawley for Senate. Approved by Josh Hawley.